Hello, and welcome back to another Policy in the Wild. This is a series where we focus on policy in the real world and supports for graduate students. Joining us today is Jade Miller. Jade is one of our graduate students in the Southern Methodist University's Master of Public Policy program. She's in the very first class of this program, so we're going to hear from her today. She also does policy work in real life. So she came into the program already really focused and passionate about policy work. She works at the Collective Action for Youth, and she just accepted an internship with the ACLU in Houston. So we'll dig into all of that with her today. So thank you so much for joining today, Jade.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Just tell us about your role, what all you're doing at your organization, and what policy issues you're focused on.
So my role at Collective Action for Youth is the Senior Policy and Legal Project Associate, such a mouthful of words. But I do roles in both areas. So one of my main areas is community organizing. That is one of our biggest buckets of work. And we community organize around 5 different areas, which is education, child welfare, juvenile justice, youth homelessness, and mental health. And anything that affects young people in any of those buckets. 2 of the buckets, which is juvenile justice and education, are my main cream of the crop. So I lead quite a few of our projects. One of them is the Youth Justice Transformation Cohort, where it is a cohort of different organizations that come together and we discuss policy that could progress youth justice moving forward, especially in probation. And then another bucket of work is the JJA, which is the Juvenile Justice Advocacy Program, where we work with various young people that have been affected by the juvenile justice system, just trying to reacclimate them back into society, but also giving them opportunities that they wouldn't have received otherwise if we didn't have the kind of program that we had and partnerships. Another piece is the mental health, and I train and do quite a few partnerships with mental health and young people, and the mentoring piece as well. I kind of keep all the puzzle pieces together and kind of do the challenging pieces that some of our other associates or some of our other young people aren't able to do yet, and just keep that boat rocking in those ways.
Yeah, so it sounds like on a day-to-day basis, you're in a very collaborative atmosphere where
Yeah.
you're just keeping everybody on the same page. So say a little more about what that looks like.
So it's so funny because the way our office is set up, nobody has offices, right? It's one big area. Everybody works all together. It's one big office. And it's like a circle, like a community circle. And so everybody knows what we're each doing. We stay updated a lot. When we're planning programs for the community, everybody's taking turns putting their ideas in, and then also using personal experiences, which is also a beautiful tactic that we use to do the work, because a lot of the young people that we work with, of course, have lived experience in various systems. And so it's really good to have individuals around you that can add to that work, but also to make sure that we're staying just community centered, youth centered, and then just politically correct when we're addressing certain issues. So it is, I really love our atmosphere because usually it's sometimes like a dictatorship at a job, and it doesn't feel like that now. Everybody really does have a say. Of course, my director has the final say, but she gives us a lot of autonomy over our projects and our minds and ideas and anything that we want to bring to the table.
Nice. That's so important because you're describing a really big job, but you've also had other opportunities like to join our master's degree and your internship at the ACLU. So do you want to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about how did the internship even come about and what have you learned so far?
So originally, I've actually been going to school since I started with the organization. They've been super flexible. They champion every single crazy thing that I want to do, and they make space for me. So I really do enjoy that. I went to a program. I don't remember what the program was about, but it was at one of the staples, restaurants in Houston. And I heard our executive director from the ACLU, Ani, speak. And I just really enjoyed hearing her speak. I enjoyed hearing about the different initiatives that they deal with. I enjoyed listening to just how passionate she was. And then it also helped that it was representation on the stage as well. So after I went up to her and I said, thank you so much. Like, you've inspired me to like look more into the ACLU. And I did. And this was last year. And then after looking at some of the work they've done, looking at some of their wins, looking at what's really important to them, one of my goals last year was to be a part of the ACLU. I didn't know what that looked like. Of course, I'm very ambitious. So I was like, I want to be on the team. Like, I'm never doing policy in depth like I have now, but just wanting to be a part of it and just continuing to search opportunities. And I just randomly went on the website and it said they were looking for like interns. And I was like, oh, well, I'll fill out the information box. And I did it a while ago. It was like months ago. And then I got an email and I got an interview. Then I got another interview. Then I got another interview and I made it on. So I think my passion shined through. I think my experience had shined through. Like I said, my biggest focus is with juvenile justice education. So I really bridge those and dig really deep. I'm doing the work outside of work most of the time because it really is life work for me. And I'm able to transfer those skills to the ACLU too.
I love that phrase, life work. So how did policy become life work for you?
You know, policy was really everywhere, right? So working in a nonprofit organization, especially a grassroots nonprofit organization, experiences are different. And I realized we had a gap somewhere. I just didn't know where it was. I came in thinking our gap was the legal gap, but it wasn't hard for me to close the legal gap. There's actually a lot more people that are willing to help in that area, a lot more experts in the area for us. But I was like, something is not right. We're like trying to move this needle forward. We have all these different campaigns, but the knowledge for a lot of us wasn't there. And originally I wanted to go to law school and I was just like, let me do some more like research and digging. And it just came natural. Like it was regular. Like it's second nature for me. It is easy for me to do. I'm a reader. I was always the one reading, over reading. Like there would be times like my directors like would withhold information because if I got the information right then and there, I would take it and dig way too deep. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it worked in my favor. So policy just really has always been a part of the work. We just didn't have a name for it yet. But now that I've been doing the work and have taken over that piece, it's become a norm for a lot of the work that we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds to me like, you made the comment policy is everywhere, and that's true. Like everything, look around on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
everything is dictated by policy. And you also have the personality where you set a goal, like I'm going to be part of the ACLU, and you made it happen. And that's what we need in the policymaking world, right?
Yeah.
Is okay, if we're trying to get to this outcome, how do we get there? So it sounds like that comes naturally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about the master's degree program. So you've been in it not quite a semester yet. Tell us what you've learned, if anything. You can be honest and say you're still learning. So
I'm always learning. I always say I'm a student, but I've learned the policy process so well that I was able to do a training on it. And it's a process that we're using at work. It's funny because today there's a campaign that we're working on in education. And I was saying, like, we're skipping steps again. Maybe we need to reel it back and who are stakeholders for this? Because now we're getting to the place where we need to start getting true allies if we really want to see the change. So identifying the proper like process for stakeholders, learning the correct terms, learning about the implementation piece, about the statement piece. Like I've learned a lot. I think the research and design has also been really helpful because usually people just get on Google, they really don't have a plan, right? But I've learned how to really plan out my research and then to apply that also to the work so that we're just not kind of jumping in blindly and doing way too much work and not getting any results because that could be really draining and very discouraging as well.
absolutely. So is there anything you still have, about a year and a half to go? Is there anything you hope you get by the end of the program? Any skills or competencies or exposures to any particular thing?
I really hope I can write a policy brief and policy analysis flawlessly. That is I love to write just naturally. I feel like that's one of my stronger traits. But I really, really want to know how to write like a policy piece and be able to submit those, to be able to do the research. And then I really want to get funded to do my research. because I think it's really important, and not just even in the US, but even like internationally. Like I said, I'm always on the internet looking at stuff. And so I'm like looking at fellowships that fund research. But then I was like, maybe I want to learn a new language too, because that could also help. I'm watching Madam Secretary right now, and she speaks so many different languages, and it's just really cool to watch. And I don't see like where I grew up at in my background, I never saw people like speak different languages or even go into policy. It was very much like, let's work against the system, but it's like, it's okay to work within the system and be the change, and do it from the inside out, right? But still staying true to like to who I am and where I came from, and really transferring all these skills to people that I know. Like, I want people to know like this stuff is really fun. It may seem boring on the outside, but it's fun when you know what you're doing and when you know what you're talking about. People fear what they don't know. And if they know it, they won't be so scared of it.
Yeah, and when you start seeing even small wins,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Helps a lot too.
Absolutely. I was usually like this, just a supporter. There was one coalition that I joined called Finish the Five, where we were looking to close down the last 5 juvenile jails in Texas. And we went through the whole legislative session. My piece was really to add my lived experience, to add some of the work that I've done with our young people as well to the table, to bring our young people to the table and make sure like their voice are being uplifted. But now that I know the policy piece, I'm glad I can add more to that conversation. And even if I don't know something, I'm really big on doing the research on it and then coming back and saying, I know now, you can ask me again. But yeah, just making sure that I'm going deeper than just the surface, because it is a lot deeper than what we see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so if somebody is interested in the master's degree program, do you have any tips or advice for them on what they should do to prepare or be ready to be successful in the program?
It's so funny. I was on Pinterest, like looking on how to prepare for a graduate program, because for so long my goal was to go to law school. So my brain chemistry had to completely shift to adjust to the master's program. But my biggest advice is just to be organized, and then to also use your resources. Like, that is one of the biggest things. Organization, using your resources, and then just take the experience as it comes. Don't be like intimidated about it. And then make sure that like it's something that you want to do. I always say I'm lucky because this is something I'm really passionate about. It doesn't seem like hard work for me because, one, I use it every single day at work, but it's something that I really enjoy. And to make sure that you have something that you are passionate about to kind of relate it to the work. It's like when you really don't have anything that you really do care about, like about concerning policy, it's kind of hard to put those pieces together sometimes.
Yep, I think that's very wise, because if it turns into a job and a job you don't like,
Yeah.
then it's going to be hard to stick with.
Yeah. But I think it's amazing that the program also gives us the option to focus on policy issues, because in undergrad you had to focus on what they wanted you to focus on.
Yep.
So it wasn't very like relational, and it's very relational here. It's hyper focused on what we really care about. So it makes the work a lot easier.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that, because that's what we tried to do in the design. So that's
Yeah.
awesome that it's coming through. Okay, so tell us about life outside of work. We've talked a lot about work and school and internships. What else do you do for fun? And tell us about your family.
Yeah, so I'm a boy mom. I have 2 beautiful boys. I have now a 12-year-old. He turned 12 on the 1st of November, and I have a 10-year-old. So I'm always busy. My life is really like a walking joke, because like they're just always goofy and like funny. So I can't be too serious because they're never serious. Um, in the moments I have to be serious, and they're like, "Whoa, like mom's serious. Okay, let's calm down." But I'm a sports mom, so constantly like football practice, basketball practice, and then they do a lot of extracurricular activities. Like my youngest son's in choir, so I'm a taxi in my spare time. I'm a coach. I'm a cook, of course, but I'm also like a friend to them. Mom, absolutely first, but like just making sure that I'm supporting them in everything that they do. That's the most important thing, because I've seen what lack of support gets our young people. So being able to know what that looks like and transferring that to my children is the most important thing. I do a lot of volunteer work outside. So I'm the youth empowerment coach here for Hall YP, which is the Houston Area Urban League of young professionals. And I just lead an initiative where we champion young people in the community. I am a fitness person. I'm not like meal prep and watching my calories kind, but I love like the workout. So I go to the gym a lot. I go to Pilates a lot. Love Pilates so much. I was like, maybe I want to be a Pilates instructor, like part-time.
Lifelong learner.
So it's a lot of fun. It's very challenging. I love challenging myself and opening myself up to new things. And then I love to read. Honestly, I'm a podcaster person and reading. It was funny because like all of my books are about like youth justice and the system. And I was laying down one time and I was like, I just want to read. And I picked up a book and I was like, girl, read something else. Like this is a lot. Like
Something fun.
Yeah, like read something fun. Like you don't have to read something so serious all the time. But I'm just like, this time doesn't stop and these issues don't stop. And I feel like I have to be the one that's always like working on them. So yeah. And I do a lot of like fellowships as well, internships, just things that are always going to sharpen my toolbox, the tools in my toolbox, just to continue to do the work.
That's awesome. It's also a great way to meet people in both your policy area, other policy areas, other spheres of life. So, which we know is critical in the policy world.
Yeah, I have a very vast network of people because I did hospitality for a while too. Yeah. So that got me into a bucket of people, which I also think helped with my people skills.
Yeah,
for sure. People skills so far, but I was really good at that. And so it's insane how those like skills and those moments in hospitality transfer over to the policy like world, because it really is about the relationships, right? You see like the TV shows where it's like some people only pass things or do things because of the relationship that they have with somebody. And that's also important because nobody wants to pass the bill or do policy with somebody they don't like. It makes it very, very difficult. So if you're likable and you are building that true relationship with people, I think it makes it easier to work on the harder issues because people just don't see you politically. They see your heart and like they know exactly really what you care about.
Yeah, the harder the issue, the more trust that is required. And
you
can't trust if you don't have common ground and you don't have all those things that you listed. So I believe that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, and I'm terrible at recall. So if you're the same, you can skip. But you're a big reader. Is there a book recently that stuck with you that you want to share with everyone?
Not recently, because I'm reading like 3 books at one time right now.
Yeah.
But right now I am reading The Gift of Rejection by Mona Jones. So I found that on a podcast that I was listening to. And I think, especially in our adult years, we experience a lot of feelings that we have felt when we were younger, in our teenage years, and now as adults. And so you really don't realize how some of those things show up. And so I'm also in therapy too, so I think that works. But just making sure that I'm staying like centered and grounded and knowing that sometimes things that I don't receive is not because I'm not capable. It doesn't mean I'm inadequate. It means that some things are not just for me and there's other things that are for me. So really just dealing with that, which I think is a really big, especially for a graduate student, I think is important because there's going to be a lot of like jobs or internships or fellowships that we may apply for that we may not get. And so being able to understand like maybe the issue isn't me, maybe it's them, or maybe it just isn't my time yet. And believing that and then being able to continue to move forward is really, really important. So I highly recommend reading The Gift of Rejection by Mona Jones.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I'll put that on my list. And you've mentioned some strategies for my next question. The last question I always like to ask is policy's hard. It's hard mentally. It can be hard physically, all the work that you do, especially if you have an internship and grad school and this and that. What do you do to take care of yourself and your family outside of policy?
Keep a nice bottle of red wine. A glass a day keeps the heartbreak away. And then just working out. I like to go on walks too. I live right next to a park. So like if I'm drawing a blank or if I really just need some space, Just enjoying nature, getting like having the sun like hit my face is really important because you stay sometimes behind your computer for so long and you're constantly scrolling. So really like touching grass is very important.
Yeah.
So I think that helps a lot. And then also therapy as well. Because, like we said, policy is hard. Everybody is not going to agree. And so that even causes discourse in your organization or with your peers or with your partners. And so being able to work through those feelings, like, was it a trigger? Is it something that I really care about? Or how do you verse certain things without stepping on toes or hurting people's feelings? I think is really important.
Yeah, that's so, so important, especially when you work on tough issues that align with your lived experiences.
Yeah.
That can bring up all kinds of things. So this is fantastic. So thank you so much for coming on today and letting us get to know you a little more. Do you have any last words of wisdom you want to share before we wrap up?
Um, Last wisdom. Honestly, it's just for the grad students. Like, you can do hard things. And I believe it's something I've been telling myself so often. Things are going to be hard, but you can do them. And you have to just really trust yourself and believe that you really can do hard things. Once you get past the hard part, the rest of it will fall into place.
I love it. What a perfect ending. Thank you so much, Jade. Have a great week.
You are welcome.